Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. Let's find out if the stream has in fact started. I hope it has. Well, we are still in the lag phase. Here we go. Yes, I can hear myself. That is good enough for now. Good morning, everybody. It is the 18th of March. That is a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And that means that we'll do the usual thing. I have a couple of YouTube comments to go through, a couple of emails to reply to, a couple of messages to reply to. That's what we'll do throughout the first sprint. And then I'll be working on the script for the Mormonism video because, since I deleted all the notes that I had or didn't save the notes I had, like when I started recording it in December, I'd better get back to that. And mostly that means writing down some dates and names and numbers, because that's the stuff I can't always remember. It's like I know that like Joseph Smith had like 5 siblings, and I know one of them is called Don Carlos, but the rest, I'd better I'd better get my facts straight for that one. Hey, Britton, awesome. How do you like Gormenghast so far? And by started, how many pages in are you? Well, then, happy birthday to your dad. That is a great thing. It's been years and years since I last read Gormenghast, but it's certainly an interesting and weird book. Weird being like the key factor here, just to be clear. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. So yeah, writing down notes and putting them in the right order for the Joseph Smith video is sort of the plan. Because my goal is to record it later today when I come back from the gym. Ideally, I'll just go and record a video about good old Joey S. Jr. Yeah, it is very overwhelming, and like he uses a very specific style of prose that makes it very. It feels incredibly gothic without being gothic, I think, and yeah, it's a weird kind of book. First time I read it, I was sick. I had like the flu or something, and I was trying to read parts of it while still running a bit of a fever. And I can tell you that is not not the state of mind you want to be in when reading Gormenghast. It can fuck you up real bad. Hey, John, and well, hello, and also good night again. It is rather late where you are, or early. But yeah, so indeed, Gormenghast, quite the experience. It's also like interesting to see what it actually does plot-wise, if you want to call it a plot, and I'm curious to find out what your experience will be, Britton. You could say that about Steerpike, yes. I think that would be correct. In some ways, at least. But then again, it's a very hierarchical society, and if you want to make your way throughout, through those kind of hierarchies, you have to be a bit of a bastard to even get close to success. So it's one of those. situations where it's like, is he actually evil, or is it society that makes him evil, kind of thing. Same way that the whole like violence thing in Wizard of the Pigeons I felt was so interesting, where he's like, yeah, he's someone who's come back from Vietnam and the only thing he's ever been trained in was being, killing people and using violence, and now he's trying really hard to not use violence, and society offers you so many situations where if you know how to use violence, violence is the one thing you can do, and is just so very, very tempting if you want to use it. And that question of like how much of this is society kind of pushing you into a specific mold, and some people are just better at doing that than others. His journey is always upwards, upwards and onwards. That's Steerpike's journey. Young Titus, I guess, is still with his foster mother at this point, and like around page 65. I mean, it's been ages, but the first book is really long. The first one is like, I don't know, 400, 500 pages, I think, at least. I did, in fact, finish the what's it called, Summer of Fire and Blood yesterday, and did start, because I was still on the bus. I did start the collection of Lord Dunsany short stories edited by S.T. Joshi. I got through the S.T. Joshi introduction, which was solid, and I'm pretty sure the rest. I mean, the rest is Dunsany, and that is always a good thing. I think what's interesting with Gormenghast is how grotesque it all is, right? Like the grotesque is clearly a part of the general like vibe of the book, and how everyone is described is always very much over the top, weird, slightly distorted and everything. And you have the one with the illustrations, right, Britton? You have the edition with Mervyn Peake's actual illustrations, which does not necessarily make things less grotesque. It's just so it's interesting because like his actual like job, well, his trade, I guess, for Mervyn Peake was in fact being a costume designer for like a theater and stuff. So that's where he's actually from, which is, you know, A, why he knows about clothing, and B, why he actually knows how to draw, and thus could actually do all of those illustrations. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. It does have that ultra vividness in a way that sort of going from the real to the hyper real, or to like the surreal, I guess. Really, really, I feel like even if you don't like the book, and there's a lot of ways to not like that, like Gormenghast, right? It's not exactly a very accessible, readable book in any way, but it's one of those things you read that, and it does stay with you. It does leave a mark on you. The same way that, yes, Heart of Darkness or Blood Meridian also do. Is like you can't walk away from that and go like, well, I don't know what this was about. I don't care. It isn't. It's hard to forget. Is what it is. So I kind of get why people like Michael Moorcock are fans of it. And Tolkien. It's one of the things that Tolkien and Michael Moorcock agree on is that Blood Meridian is Blood Meridian, that Gormenghast is in fact really good. So yeah, glad you finally get to it, and that's going to be, I guess, all of well, I'm sure it'll take you a couple of weeks to go through that one, because it is very dense and very long. I need to either just focus fully on the Mormon stuff this week. I mean, obviously, I have to read or reread the Worm Ouroboros, until Thursday evening. So I better start today or like maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow should be enough to read Worm Ouroboros. It's okay. C.S. Lewis makes sense. Like as I said, that's when I did like more of my Tolkien reading, or reading about Tolkien, and there was one essay in one of the books about Tolkien. Might have been the Cambridge Companion to Tolkien Studies or whatever, right? And they were looking at the Inklings and their program of well, of talking of writing fantasy together, but also of talking about other fantasy books or science fiction books or whatever they were called at the time, and inviting authors to join them. And yeah, obviously, Gormenghast, when it came out was one that C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien talked about and were, excuse me, were even trying to invite Mervyn Peake to come over and to Oxford and hang out with them for like an evening and talk, but it did not come to pass because of health issues, of course. So yeah, they were like very aware of Gormenghast and fans. I think like I've especially with Tolkien, I C.S. Lewis probably as well, but with Tolkien, I've never heard anyone say that he wasn't like a nice dude to hang out with, right? Like also like from like when you read his letters and stuff, when Tolkien talked about himself, he was always like very, very sort of like self-effacing and all of that. So I guess he was a nice dude to hang out with. Just not necessarily, you know, I mean, and I guess that's like the academic thing, right? If you are someone who grew up in academia, you can be a very nice person and still, you know, have like disagreements on like on the writing level, on like the subject matter, right? And have like a vicious fight about you know your claims in a paper and then still go for like a beer afterwards. That's a very very academia kind of approach, and I think Tolkien took that. Never heard of Tolkien being mean to anyone, really. Which is an admirable quality. But yeah. I don't know, I like Moorcock as a writer, but also like just as someone who has been more or less constantly angry about stuff for the last 60, 70 years by now, and has not sort of like not mellowed in any meaningful way. He's a bit like, he reminds me a bit of someone like Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull in that regard, who's also like 77 years old now and still very mad at just about everyone, and hasn't really changed in that regard. There's a very specific type of like cantankerous old British person, and both Moorcock and Ian Anderson kind of embody that in like a very interesting way. Obviously, their politics are very different, but the approach to being angry is very similar. All right, so shall we do the first round of sprinting, where I reply to video YouTube comments and maybe even open up the notes, the text file to write down notes and research the names of all of Joseph Smith's siblings, some of who died really, really quickly. Same for his kids. Like, you know, one of the things that I feel is sort of like important when we talk about like the whole baptism for the dead and stuff like that with Mormons is when you look at like how many kids and how many siblings that first generation of Mormons lost, often without, you know, them having the chance to even convert to like what they believe their true religion. You can see where the idea of like sort of like vicarious baptism or baptism for the dead kind of comes from, because there is that deep need of like, hey, I've lost like 10 kids by now. Maybe I want to make sure they don't end up in hell, right? I do like punk in general. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of Johnny Rotten in particular. I do very highly, I do like a lot of the, Bad Religion, NoFX, that kind of stuff. A new Propaganda song and the new Propaganda album hopefully will be really good. That stuff and like some of the German punk rock I do also very much respect in a lot of ways. The British punk never really fully sort of like I mean, it's nice that it exists, but there's certainly I feel like British punk was not that interesting until it became like post-punk and goth and all of that stuff. Then it kind of got more interesting. So yeah, let's do the sprint and let's try to be productive until the top of the hour. we're back. How did everyone do? I hope you did well. I did. I did do stuff, so it is what it is. So yeah, I did in fact go through the comments, go through the messages. I read all emails. I have one email I need to reply to before getting into the more structuring of the wonderful Joseph Smith video that I will record today. Also, it's getting very, very sunny here, which is scary. I mean, it's spring, so it is to be expected. Yeah. I still have to figure out. Oh wait, it's 9 a.m. I guess I can. I can at least download the Buffalo Hunter now. I think. I just need to figure out if I want to read that one first and then go for the worm Ouroboros, or the other way around. And I mean, if I was smart, which admittedly I'm not, right? I could, or I should probably go and reread something Mormon related at the gym, so I can think about what I want to put into the video. We'll see if I manage to do that, or if I get once again distracted by me going like, well, I could continue some Laut Dunsany, or I can read the Buffalo Hunter, or Red Rabbit, or something else. It is a land of possibilities after all. But I am very much, I don't want to say I'm excited to get the Mormonism video, to work on the Mormonism video, but I feel I've reached that point where I've done enough reading, enough research to know what I'm doing, which rarely ever happens with me, but here we are. Or at least I've reached a point where reading more stuff about this specific aspect of Mormon history does not actually add anything. It's just one of those things where, like, my approach to, which is not good if you're in academia, right? That's important to understand, right? But it's like I read and read and read and read and read until I can't read anymore. Like physically, I hit like a wall where like any further book, any further page on a topic just like physically revolts me. And at that point, hopefully, stuff is kind of spilling over and I can turn it into text. Hey, Apollo, how you doing? And that's sort of the point I've reached with at least Joseph Smith time in Mormonism. So I could just go and hopefully record the thing. And I had to figure out how to do that, because the problem with like Mormon history in particular is that it is you have like Mormon history as told by Mormons, and then you have stuff that historians that are still sympathetic to the Mormon Church have mentioned that is not part of the official sort of like church narrative, or more like fundamentalist church narrative. And then you obviously have the stuff that non-Mormon church critics bring up, and you have to figure out how to do that, how to sort of like structure those three sort of like elements of Mormon history, and go like, do I just tell you the story as is, and then tell it again in a different version, and then tell it again in like a third version, or do I just tell it once and go like, well, Mormons believe this, more liberal Mormons believe this, non-Mormons believe this. It's one of those like structural things where I'm struggling with. But at the moment, I'm leaning towards telling the story like several times with different emphasis, because it's might lean into the larger sort of like theme of the Mormonism video in general, which is all about like having different narratives and having narratives in particular. That's a good point. I need to find that again in like one of the books that I read. They were quoting another scholar, and that scholar talked about how Mormonism is Mormon theology is a narrative theology, not a what's the phrase? Not like a structural theology, where when you go and look at like Catholic theology, for example, everyone is doing a very analytical approach to exegesis, to examining stuff. Whereas Mormonism, when Mormonism does theology, usually it is done through telling stories, through narratives, and so you're still in time for work and everything, Apollo, I hope. And it was only mentioned in like the foreword of one of the other books, and if I can track down that specific reference, that would, I think, be very helpful in general. So I'm going to try and to do that. Maybe during the next sprint, maybe I can. I know it's in one of two books I recently read. It's either in A Peculiar People, or it's in Terrible Revolutions, and it was mentioned in the foreword. I just need to find which one it was, so I can then search for the authors cited there to then go from there. But that's what research is, I guess. So yeah, that's the project for the next sprint. Find out where that narrative thing comes from, because it is obviously a very helpful lens if I want to examine Mormonism and Mormon culture and its impact on fantasy and science fiction authors and authors in general, because seems how there might be that there might be some connection, right? So yeah. Beyond that, I have not yet looked at the news for today, so I don't know how much new stuff is burning since yesterday. Oh yeah, trust me, Apollo, it is absolutely exhausting. It does, however, obviously leave me in a position where I can absolutely bore the living hell out of anyone at a party with like way too much research and way too much details, or way too many dumb things I've read in the past, which is its own benefit, I guess. That, of course, is excellent. Apollo, no work sounds like a beautiful dream. So yeah, got to figure out whether I'm just going to re-listen to the first couple of chapters of American Zion, which is, I think, the best sort of approach, because it has it's a general like history of Mormonism, and just to recapitulate the stuff that I want to talk about today might be the best choice. I could do that at the gym, or I could obviously go and just listen to some Rod and Saini and stuff. We will see. I do, after all, still have like something like an hour to figure that one out. Yeah. And that's kind of the stupid thing, right? I feel like, well, if I work on the Mormonism video, it will take up most of the time this week, and then I don't have like any other videos on the channel. And obviously, I don't have to. But maybe reading the Buffalo Hunter and making a quick video on the Buffalo Hunter, so I have like at least one video while I'm working on the big one. suddenly feels like it's well, a good idea, or at least somewhat tempting. You know what I mean? I also did get the new Ada Palmer Inventing the Renaissance book, but that's like that's a 30-hour 30 hour, so like roughly 1,000-page book, I guess. So I'm gonna read that, I guess, maybe over the weekend, or as something in between. Not necessarily something that is worth or well, I mean, I'm gonna find out whether it's worth having a video on it. But I mean, I said that yesterday, that like doing videos on nonfiction books is somehow more difficult. And while I do obviously have some knowledge of the Renaissance and so forth, I don't think I wouldn't call myself an expert, is what I'm saying. But yeah, 30 hours of the on the Renaissance. I still need to go back and reread a Terra Ignota as well, but I'm gonna leave that for after the Thunderstorm, because I don't think I want to do like two more involved topics at the same time. And I still have to reply to your email, Apollo. That will also happen during the next sprint. I saw it yesterday when I was stuck outside of Marburg in a village because I got onto the wrong bus, and then I was like, oh, there's an email, and I read it on my phone. And I'm like, I'm not going to type on my phone for like hours. That's it's not a good idea. So that's going to happen, but hopefully next sprint. And I should probably figure out whether and how I'm going to go and visit my friends over the weekend. For like a friend of mine is celebrating their birthday, and they live up north, which means traveling by train over the weekend is a bit of a pain in the ass. What with the bridge being taken down in Marburg, and all trains, the train line being interrupted over the weekend, and basically that would mean on the way back at least to go to Frankfurt and then go the long fucking way around. I'm not sure if I like how time works for that. I guess that means I will be actually busy during the second sprint as well, like actual stuff I need to do. Shocking. Will I be able to handle all that productivity, or will I just collapse? Of course, of course I'm free to do whatever, but I do want to reply. I didn't want to do it on my phone because yeah, typing on my phone is just so incredibly annoying. So don't worry. um, I mean, I have already opened the tab to do so. I just have to actually do the thing. But during first sprints, I got sidetracked because I had to discuss the quality of Brave New World by Iron Maiden with my flatmate, which happened to come up this morning. Because I like the album and he doesn't like the production, so we had to figure out where the problem lies. So the bridge, that one highway bridge north of Marburg, like around north of the main station, has to be taken down because it's in danger of collapsing. So they and because it crosses the train tracks, they need to take down the overhead wires and everything. So it's going to be a massive thing where like no trains will be traveling north of Marburg from I think Friday until Monday or something. I have to look up the times again, but yeah, should you need to go into Marburg from the north in the next couple of days, you should probably check when that is possible, or if there's, I mean, I assume there will be buses and everything. I mean, obviously, I don't know exactly where you live, but so yeah, make sure that make sure that you can actually get where you need to be. I don't know for how long that construction thing will be going. I have to double check, which tells you a lot about like how prepared I am. I just know my old flatmate who's also coming to that party. He was like, "Oh gosh, we have to go around because of the bridge thing," and I'm like, "What bridge thing?" And he was like, "Well, don't you know?" True, Apollo. Very much true. What did I expect you there to say there? So yeah, make sure you're aware of the bridge situation, Apollo, in case you have to go to Marburg for work, university, or anything else, and suddenly find out that there's only buses going because train down. Um, so I'm gonna find out very soon, and this is the signal where we go into the second sprint. Now we'll be back shortly before the full hour, so I can, get ready and get down in time to hurt myself in the name of I don't know, self optimization. We'll see. I don't feel very optimized. All right. I am sort of back, hopefully. Turns out my browser crashed in between. I blame Google Mail. For whatever reason, sometimes Google Mail just crashes on me. I assume it's like a thing with the screen reader, but who knows? So yeah, I did do things. I did reply to that email. I did try to figure out how the whole like train situation is, and nobody really knows, which is fun. And I think I figured out which book the one was that has the narrative thing in it. So I'm going to go to the gym now, and I'll double check the other one. I assume from like after I've reread the introduction to Peculiar People, and which is the book on anti-Mormonism, I assume the stuff about narratives is in fact in Terrible Revolution. Yeah. Terrible Revolution, which is about apocalypticism in Mormonism, which kind of makes sense to have the narrative element in that one mentioned in that one. So I'm gonna find out. Yeah, that's what I'm going to double check when I'm back from the gym, I guess. Yeah, that's where we are. I will now go and hurt myself in the name of self-optimization and all of that. Have a nice day and be productive or relax and enjoy the sunlight if that's something you can do right now. I sure think it's nice to have like sunlight and everything for once. So yeah, see you tomorrow.